Hi, it's Sunshine Hunting here, or some people know me as Heather Ann Smith. Uh, Many of you might be from my Facebook page where I do good morning, daily, or good day, any time of the day posts to offer support and care and love, because I personally felt like that it was something that was very much lacking in my life, which is one of the things that led to the diagnosis of post-traumatic stress disorder. I was experiencing extreme amounts of trauma, and over the course of a couple decades, if not longer, and the kind of person I am that kind of takes up that mediator role, and I'm highly resilient person who can kind of solve almost any problem that kind of comes my way, was suffering in silence because it was hard for me to ask for help. And I think a lot of people kind of, especially men, kind of come from this problem where they don't want to overburden people with their problems, because face it, we all have our own problems in life, right? We all have our own things that we need to take care of, and we don't want to, unload that suitcase of issues onto somebody else and be toxic. And so we end up suffering in silence. And it kind of came to a head for me during COVID when I was catfished. I recently was divorced, and the question is still in my head on like who exactly, because the timing was so perfect, on who exactly really catfished me. But I don't know, and I'm gonna leave it. It doesn't matter, to be honest with you, because these people are very, very good at what they do. They're very good at manipulating people. They're very good at finding the right victims who have the right amount of unhealed wounds mixed with fear of being alone, or fears, and playing on those fears. But the reason why I wanted to talk to you today, and why I'm going to do a series of videos, is because that experience alone taught me so many gifts. It gave me so many gifts that healed me, that I don't think would have happened if I wasn't put through those extreme circumstances. Yeah, it was incredibly painful, and hurtful and scary, and I felt so betrayed. But I also felt all those experiences prior to that person coming into my life. And I was surrounded by a lot of toxic people, and I did not have firm enough boundaries and a lot of the skills in place in order for me to move forward in life. And I was being held back and from my full potential. And so I want to say that I wouldn't recommend going out and getting yourself a catfish by any means. I mean, cringing at the amount that I owe because of me fawning. And if you don't understand what fawning is, a good example that they like to use clinically is that, you either fight the tiger, right, with you want to flee the tiger, like run away, right? And after a long period of doing those two activities, you start to fawn the tiger. And so under the understanding that I was already fully traumatized and fully experiencing a lot of trauma and feeling unsupported, once I left my ex-husband and then moved into a relationship that was super toxic, after that, and probably arguably relationships prior to the ex-husband were toxic. I was fawning. I was fawning and engaging in people that didn't value my worth, that people that didn't respect me, people that didn't, even my jobs experiences, I was being devalued. My friends didn't treat me the way I deserved to be treated. I was surrounding in myself in an environment of toxic people that were jealous and wasn't looking out for my best interests. And unfortunately, this person came in and broke apart all those things. And because of that, I am ever so grateful, because I learned so many lessons on how to take better care of myself. I have little notes here on that because there's so many. I overcame the fear of being alone. I overcame, obviously, the realization that I had post-traumatic stress disorder due to, I had all this anxiety. And I literally, when it came to a head and I was having anxiety attacks at my job, and one job, by the way, was very understanding, my last job. But when I got to that point and I just went in for a 10-day leave of absence just to try to deal with the identity theft and the fraud and all these things that were happening to me at the time, I was told that I was diagnosed with this post-traumatic stress disorder, and I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe how resilient I had become and how much I had been suffering for so long and not even aware what was going on with me. I just knew that every single day I woke up and I felt sick going to work. I felt sick when I came home. I was so sad, and I was searching for some moment of happiness every single day and some purpose for me to be alive. And I kept questioning, is this all that I have? And is this all that I have to look forward to? And if this is what I have to look forward to, what is the point of being here? And I really didn't, I had a deep dive. I really didn't see the reason for living. And that's really hard to say. And thank goodness I was a veterinary nurse, because that led me to these, prior to that, I had 10 rescue cats, and that led me to become a veterinary nurse. But if it wasn't for those 10 rescue cats and my obligation to be their caregiver, I don't know if I would be here, and certainly that's a valid, blessing, that they kept. That's why I'm so indebted to them. And they bring me so much joy. They were the things that brought me the joy that kept me here. But yeah, and then once you realize that you have this post-traumatic stress disorder, and somebody did say to me, that is, you've been traumatized in the past, but once you realize that you're in that, it's how to remove yourself from these toxic people, how to stop continually being traumatized by these people, and how to remove these people from your life, because they latch on. As soon as they see and feel that you're trying to get away, they want to hold on, hold on to you, with a fist, and not letting you get away, because they feed off your energy. And then learning the difference between, because I have to say there's a whole thing with addiction, I wasn't a drug addict or anything like that. I was addicted to helping other people. I loved helping other people because it made me feel good. But it also was not allowing me to look at the pain that I was suffering and seeing all the pain that I felt. And so I would give things like financial stuff and give things to other people in my detriment. And I would be hurting as a result of it. And so you really had to get to this point where you had to determine, you know, what was enabling another person and what was support. And that was because clearly I was enabling this catfish, but I was enabling other people prior to that too. And we're gonna dive deep into that as well. Also, like I had a lot of self-hatred for myself. I didn't like who I was. And you had to really learn to love yourself and become your own best friend. And that was that's an ongoing process, of course, as a human being, but that was really beautiful experience to be okay with. And it kind of happened with being okay with being alone, because those two things happened together. But it was beautiful, like just to be completely satisfied for the rest of my life, it's just me, and being okay with that, and having the fulfillment and just my own company, and not hating myself for doing what I did to it, you know, and not sticking up for myself. And that brings me to forgiveness, right? You know, forgiving myself for allowing these people to treat me this way, forgiving myself for not sticking up for myself, my own, like if I would stick up for a best friend more than I would stick up for myself. I would take care of a best friend better than I would take care of myself. And then at the end, I would get resentful because people wouldn't be showing up for me in the same way. You know, that behavior is not okay. You know, a spouse wouldn't show up for me the same way I would be giving to them. And that stuff is not okay. And the realization that, you know, I had so much love to give, and how much I could show up for somebody, and that I deserved to have that reciprocated, and I wasn't going to settle for something less than that. It was really quite an awakening of an experience, and that all happened, I can honestly say, from this experience of being with a catfish. And then with the forgiveness thing also, I wanted to touch on is like the control, like, you know, by forgiving myself, and then in essence, forgiving them, meaning like not forgiving them for what they did, but forgiving them for like forgiving them enough, like their higher self, I guess is a better way of saying that. Like, it allows them to not have control over me, or having other people that were so hurtful and so harmful to me in the past, allowing them not to have that kind of control. Because if I held on to that resentment and that hatred, then they would still control me, right? They could still control my life. They would still control my daily thoughts, and I would never be able to let go. I would never be able to move on, and I would never be able to be happy, right? So that was a big thing. And then obviously creating boundaries, that was another one. And really figuring out what the priorities were, like that I wanted, like what really truly were the things that I wanted. You know, after being traumatized, it's like you start to think about, like, you don't even know yourself anymore. Like you start living for everybody else and making everybody else happy. And you have to really get to the bottom of like, what truly do you desire? And that's when a lot of things were unlocked in me. Like my poetry became more and more unlocked. My writing became more and more unlocked. You know, obviously I have a love for animals. And I obviously have a really natural ability to learn things very, very, very fast, right? Especially when I have a desire to learn those things. But the other thing is that I have an incredible desire to help other people. But with that, it has to be in my boundaries, right? Like in an ability for me not to harm myself, and constantly having that checks and balances of like, because I can give so much, right? I can show up so much for somebody, and people will come and they'll take advantage of that because they see how much I can give. And oh, my cat just jumped. My blind kitty cat just jumped to the trunk. She's okay though. Everybody, she's okay. So yeah, I mean, and obviously I learned these things because I failed at them miserably, right? And that was another big one, was failure, like being okay to fail, being okay with myself that I was failing at these things, because that's how I learned, right? And that was also like one of my biggest things was like failing. I used to get so mad at myself for failing and making mistakes. And now I realize, like, it's okay. It's okay that I make mistakes. And how to get unstuck, like, what are the people in my life that are toxic, that are holding me back and from my full potential, and being okay with asking for help. Because of this fear of like telling people that your problems and you feel like you're overburdening people, and that, this quest for being so perfect and being together and being at a certain age and having a certain status, or making a mistake or failing or not living up to your full potential, or you should, in your head, this constant negative lens from these toxic people in your life have put in you, and you don't think that you're living up to it. You become so scared to even just ask for help, because then it tells them that there's something wrong with you, and we're all on our own journey, and yeah. And and the last final thing I think probably was letting go of all those things, which came with forgiveness. And then having faith that you're going to end up succeeding in the end. Like, you're going to find your own way out of all of these things. That's a true act of faith. Because ultimately, I didn't mean to do anybody any harm. I'm taking responsibility for what I've done. I'm taking responsibility for what had happened to me, the role I played in it, and those people in my life that, had an alternative motive for whatever the reason is. They'll have their own time to heal and to deal, and it's not my job to go after and create revenge or destroy their lives or get back at them and be evil. They're gonna have to deal with that on their own, in their own time, and have faith that in essence, karma, if you want to, for lack of a better word, if you believe in karma, their karma is coming, on their own due time. Yeah, I mean, so it's a lot. It was a lot of life lessons that I learned and were solidified and mastering. And I believe that that's the best way in order to move forward when you are experiencing something so heavy or so destructive in life. And that's what separates successful people from unsuccessful people, are those that are willing to look at the flaws, look at the role they played, look at the failures, and assess and redirect their focus and fix the problems and move forward. And so I want to dive deep and in these areas and talk with you about how the catfish helped in essence, but also like how we need to evolve as human beings to be better at these things, and to learn these and offer some insights. So I hope you join me for the next few videos. There might be at least 4 or 5. down the road, hopefully more. But thank you so much for joining me, and please join my Facebook. It's under Heather Ann Smith, but also my business page is Sunshine Hunting, and that's where the free daily online support videos are. And thank you so much for listening. Bye.